Welcome back, everyone, to Rising Warriors Rachael Kulei. I am Mia Dachina, a woman that travels with the stars, and I am an enrolled member of Northwest Band Shoshone Nation. And today I have my mother and business partner in Zimee Wellness Center and Indigenous Sovereignty. And today I have her coming on, and we are going to be speaking about smudging. And what kind of brought this up is that if you are not Native American, or if you are and you are coming back into your roots and connection and need some type of guideline, this will be something that will be a tool to help you in that place, in that space. And we've both have been noticing things on social media um, where smudging from the Western cultures don't quite have the correct understanding and knowledge. And so we are wanting to raise that awareness and teach and bring that knowledge to you guys so that you have more understanding of what smudging is and the purpose of smudging. Because there's a lot of things that can happen if you don't really understand what you're doing, that you can wake up certain things, or we'll get into this. So there's many things that can happen. So Rochelle, go ahead and we'll have you introduce yourself and where you come from, and we'll get started.
Well, Zanbechu, good morning. I am a daughter of Darlene Neiman, and she's from the Northwestern Band of Shoshone Nation and the Eastern Shoshone and the Western Shoshone Band. So those are my two grandparents, Margaret and Linford. And I'm so appreciative for you asking me this, because I've had many questions, from my students asking me about this thing. I teach in at Portland Community College, the Native art history, and then also the Indigenous studies, Native studies. And so this is a common thing that they always ask: is it appropriation? And so we have to. I don't want to discourage those who are non-Indigenous peoples, but I also want, if you're going to, you're going to need to do so and have an understanding of how you're using it. So smudging is a purification ceremony. It's a common practice among many Indigenous peoples throughout the world. And so it's a place, smudging is a way to balance yourself, to purify the negative space around you, your auras, your energy, and those, and not those, but the things that are around you, even your own belongings. So it's a clearing of energies from ourselves and our spaces and the environment. So smudging calls on the spirits of the sacred plants. Okay, so it drives away negative energies, and so we need to be really careful how we're using that. But we use plants such as, I wanted to show you different types of plants, and also mind you that, yes, many tribes use different things. It's according to where their environment is, so yeah, thank you. But there's different types of sage. This is in our area in Idaho, and this is what we use, this type of sage. And but a lot of people you'll see at stores, yes, use this you'll see something like this. And this type of, I'm trying to figure out how the camera works. Okay. This kind of sage is a white sage, and this is from the South, and which a lot of people like to use. I personally love this. So, but it wasn't uncommon that, tribes shared each other's plants. We did trading. So this is another thing that you can use. But, here again, here's what we gather up in the mountains in Idaho for smudging. So I wanted to talk about that, but also there's many elements, so I'll talk about those things. But I want you to be careful for those who don't have an understanding of smudging and the plants. They have their properties of energies that are very powerful. And I had a client who came to me and said she doesn't like to smudge because it's too, it gives her headaches. But then I asked her, well, where did you get your sage? And she said she had bought it from a grocery store. And that's where we need to be super careful, because if these these, I want to say farming, agriculture, if they're growing them because it's becoming a popular trend at this time, if they're growing it and then they're spraying it with pesticides, they're, using chemicals to water and to care for their plants, that sage that you're going to burn, and it's going to give you a headache because there's chemicals in it. It no longer, what's happening is this beautiful plant has its own property and energy. Mm-hmm. It has its own vibration. And if it's grown where it needs to be grown, and you're gathering it up in the mountains, pure air, the water, you're going to receive that energy from the plant. But if we are giving it pesticides, spraying around it, we're using chemicals to make it grow quicker, it's not going to be able to give us the medicine it needs to. So naturally, I tell them, don't quit buying them at the stores. Look for local trading posts. Look for your local area. There's tons of organizations and native organizations that you could call on and ask, who can I purchase this sage that I could trust that. So you want to go to those local people, because we gather our medicine, but I don't gather the white sage. I trade it. We get it from the trading post. So, and it comes from Indigenous people who actually gathered the plants. And that could be another topic later, Rachel, how to gather, because sometimes people over gather and then they don't leave anything for anyone else. So that could be another topic. But I'll just stick to the smudging. Yeah. So when we talk about the plants and how it's gathered, you just have to really be careful and where you're getting because if you don't know, and it's not going to mark on those bags, and you're seeing it at American Eagle, and you're seeing it in places that I feel ashamed. Like they are sacred plants, and yet, we're using them as like capitalism and consumerism. So I feel sad for them at times because of that, but we need to just be careful. So in the Shoshone way, and in the Eastern Shoshone, I was taught that each plant is represented in the 4 directions. So the sage represents the west. Mm. So if you're using these medicines, you place them where you want. Every tribe's different, but for Shoshones, the sage represents the west, and then the sweet grass, and the purpose of sage, let me go into that. It purifies the air, one thing. So it was a perfect use for COVID to just go through the house and clean, the air, the viruses and germs. But it also has been proven scientifically that it releases endorphins. So it's making you feel better. So then, therefore, it's driving negative energies away. So the sage represents the west, and then the sweetgrass. Rachel and I went and gathered sweetgrass, and it took us a while. We went up to Mount St. Helens, and we were trying to we everything that looked like sweetgrass was bear grass, and we're like trying to find it, and so we kept our windows down trying to smell the sweetgrass, and then all of a sudden we smell, there it is, and so we'd pull over, and then we'd find patches of sweetgrass. So sweetgrass purifies and attracts positive energy of beauty and sweetness. So sweetgrass is I love it. It smells so good, and it makes you happy. So that represents the north. And then we have cedar, which is to ward off sickness. So cedar, I have a bag of cedar. And then we go up again, up in the mountains, and Rachel's refined hers. Tiny.
That's different. Yours is a flat cedar. This is round.
Which one do you
cedar.
Have? Oh, yeah,
I have round cedar. And round cedar, actually, if you want to hold up the leaf of the flat cedar.
Yeah.
So this is actually our Shoshone cedar that comes from the mountains in Utah that we've gathered, that actually grows like the flat cedar. So it has the flatness, but they're round. So it's the same shape of the leaf of the cedar, but these ones are actually, you can kind of see they're more round.
Yeah.
And they're not flat.
Yeah. And this is from Mount St. Helens. This one is
the northwest cedar.
Yeah. So the cedars to ward off sickness. It represents the south. And then, of course, then we have tobacco, which is when you gather, you always give an offering with the tobacco. And you give it an offering to the plants and ask permission. You say, I want to use you as for my ceremonies, and I, you give gratitude, and they want to be used. They want to be used in a correct way. So then, like I said, other people use lavender. That represents spiritual blessings.
Saw palmetto.
Yes. Copal. There are just so many. So there's a mix. You can mix them also. And then another thing I want to talk about is many tribes, use the abalone shell, and then you could place your sage in there, right?
I have the Aztec.
Yeah.
Smudge bowl.
Yeah. But lots of tribes, many tribes too, it depends. You need to find out from an elder, but tribes don't believe in using the shell because the shell represents the water element. Okay. So we have the fire, and the air and earth. And so this represents the water element. So, but there's many tribes that also don't use abalone shells or any shells because they say for them it nullifies it the fire, so they don't want it to represent the water because the energies won't
they mix.
Yeah, so it just kind of gets, like I said, it nullifies the purpose. So they'll use other elements like bowls and things that you had. So so what I want to do is just wanted to show you another thing is So you can light your sage. Okay. So let me light it. And you can let it burn. And if you have a feather, then you can, then you can get it to lighten it so you could see. Okay. Oftentimes, so we use the feather. Now, the thing is, what I used to do was blow on it. And I didn't know until later, an elder told me that you should never blow on your smudging, because you are blowing your energy into it. And especially if you're smudging someone else, you're placing your energy into the plant, and then it again nullifies its energy. So we don't blow on it. And I didn't know that until an elder taught me. So they said, you wave your hand. If you don't have a feather, you just use your hand and wave, okay? And the idea is, so once you have that going, you have your feather. And why do, I know that you know this, Rachel, but the feathers, you can use a feather. Different tribes use different sacred feathers, but the idea of the feather is that it represents, they are closest to a creator. And so they symbolize and represent the connection directly to the creator. So that's why if you use a feather and then cleanse with it, it will connect you and clear you quicker, because it would direct you to the creator. So when you're smudging, you're going to take this and go over your chakra. It's interesting, but everybody, every culture uses this. The Chinese acupuncture, Hinduism uses this crown chakra, and we use it also. And you are smudging and clearing. And it's nice to have someone help you. But if you're alone, then you could take it, smudge your arm, your body, go all the way down under your feet, place it on the ground and step over it. It's nice to have someone help you, but when you're alone, you could do this yourself. So, like I said, you're smudging around, up around you, releasing with intention that you're cleared. So I'm going to do my feet right now, my body. And so that is how you will smudge, and then with prayer. And you could do this also through your house, the doors, the entries. I like to use it when, just something's going on in the home, just it feels negative. So I'll go and I'll go at least once a month. I'm clearing the energy from the house, because
I'm smudging every day.
yeah, and then coming from outside, I did it more often when I was working and having to travel back and forth. But now that COVID is here, I just stay home. So I am so in my element and happy just being in my space. So it's nice. But so you just, again, smudging with prayer, your intention, what you want, and asking it to clear you. And you will feel so much better when you are doing this on a regular basis. But like I said, every day for myself, you can do this. But then you're home, you could do it once a month. But, it's like spring cleaning, but doing it more often. So when you when you are leaving, don't ever just leave your sage or your smudging elements don't leave it alone. You need to be careful, and it can It depends how long you want it to burn, but you can stay around that and let it burn, and it'll actually go out. Or if you need to go, you can take it and you could press down gently, gently like this, and it'll eventually die out. So making sure, like there's still some red, a little bit of fire there. It's still burning, but you want to just gently, I'm pressing gently. I'm not pressing too hard. Okay, and some people put sand at the bottom of their shell, and then that way they can just,
push it into it.
Yeah.
It puts it out.
They'll smother it in there, and then the smoke will go. So that is what I have to say about smudging. Be careful. Always have intention. Another thing that a friend, he's Navajo, he taught me that never leave your medicine out, especially when people come over. You want to put it away and make sure that it's always safe. So take care of your plants. Make sure you know where you're getting it from, how it's grown. And I'm not kidding about that. Even our energies can harm other people too. So, just like I'll go to a restaurant and sometimes I'll ask what mood is the chef in, because I want to know what I'm going to eat, and I'll do extra prayers for my food because we do exchange that silent energy. And so we have to be really careful and just remember that the plants, they have a spirit, and they have a purpose, and they want to be used, and they want to be able to bless us and help us through difficult times. So thank you so much.
Luz, thank you. Well, I'm like, there's more that we could even talk about, but I want to just speak on, just for my own experience too, about what you were saying with the exchange of the medicines and not knowing where you're getting them from. When I was in the stage 4 cancer, I was extremely sensitive to energies and everything that's around. And for those that don't know, I was doing all of my cancer therapy through natural treatments, herbs, and things. And so while I was going through this, I could actually feel the energy of the person that prepared that medicine for me. And so whether it was good, or if it was that they were having a bad day, or even if they were putting pesticides and different chemicals on it. Then also there's a lot of people too that they'll play classical music, or they'll play different kinds of genres of music for their plants while they're growing. And so one of the things was that I started feeling each person's intention, and what each person, their energetic field, and what they were carrying and put while they were growing these herbs that were done in the labs. And so it's just like how that, what your client was saying, the chemicals from the pesticides that she didn't understand that was giving her these intense headaches. Well, it was like the same thing for me. But then at the same time, I was actually now, instead of, like, for instance, with the sage, I wanted to see what, I think it was New Seasons that had sage bundle in there. And so I went and because I couldn't get anything from the trading post at that time. And so I needed something quick to grab. And so I was like, okay, I know New Seasons, they have a sage bundle. It's a natural grocery store. So I'm thinking that, okay, I can go in there and go to the natural grocery store and get my sage bundle so that I can do some of my smudging and prayers. And so I grab it, and then instantly I started feeling sick. I was nauseated. My head was pounding. instead of feeling that peaceful love and happiness that we get with that smell of the sage, it was more irritating me. It was making me agitated. My spirit was really like on edge. And so it did the opposite of what I needed the sage to do for me. And so I experienced that myself with this medicine, with this plant, and getting it from even natural grocery stores. So you would think that even being, a natural grocery store, that, okay, you'd be a little bit safe, being there and getting that sage bundle from there. But even then, it was created in the lab. And so there was still the pesticides, there was still the energy of the lab itself, which
and the
completely changed it,
packaging and
everything. And so then, like, when we know, like, because we have our herbal line, Zimee Wellness Center. And so, like, when we do our packaging for our herbs and things like that, we are smudging the bottles. So we smudge bottles before we actually put the oils into the bottles or the lotion into the bottles. So it's like, even though we have the plastic, the container, we're smudging and almost kind of like canceling out the energy from the lab being created, and the plastics and things like that. But we like to use more of glass when it comes to like tinctures and things, but still the energy of that. And so, we go and we purify. We use the sage to purify each one of those bottles. So it's not just, oh, we're going to grab a whole box, that we just get a whole box of shipment like you did the other day, and then we're just smudging around the whole box or just smudging it all together. It's every time that we sit with that medicine, each bottle gets put with that prayer and that intent and saged, and then that medicine gets put into it, and then then we're sealing it in that sense so that it stays there, and so it doesn't get tainted. And so we understand, from being on the other side of herbalists, of packaging and the preparation that is necessary for even sending smudge or sending different herbs and tinctures and things like that. And so there's that aspect of too, of that goes along with what you were saying, as well as like smudging your things. So like, for instance, say I had to go to, a funeral is coming to my mind. So say we go to a funeral, there's certain things, like in our way, in the Shoshone way. So like for us, we'll put, say, the ambers or the ashes of the smudge on our nose, and here and the back of our ears, and our pinkies, and there's certain places that we put that, so that when we go on to the graveyards and things, that that our spirit is protected, so that nothing follows us home, or that, so and then also we don't get sick. Or there's also that respect to, I almost kind of like see, like there's like, by putting it under our feet, you're putting this like protection over our feet, so that you're separating, so you're not actually walking on top of them. It's almost like putting a glass or something over the top of it, so you're not stepping right directly onto it. And so then also, then you're not breathing in those those spirits of those things that can either take over our bodies, or they can make us sick, or people have gotten weak and almost passed out because of the energy being too intense for them, and feeling the veil thin. And so that that smudging and the other aspect too helps creating that protection and that energetic protection too, so that you're protected in those spaces and things like that. So then too, when you come home, like grandma would always say, okay, make sure you smudge your clothes, like make sure you, or even like before you get in the car, now smudge yourself again. And clear yourself so that nothing from those places can come home with you. And so it's like, so anytime like we end up in those situations where it's not a good place, and the energies or entities, they're darker and it's more dense, not in that high vibration, that's when we can smudge ourselves, and especially before we go into the home, so that those things don't follow us into the home. Because that's another thing that I was taught, is that, okay, say I smudge the whole inside of my home and I put my protections up, but yet I go somewhere and I bring an attached entity back with me. But because I did not dismiss it at the door and leave it at the door, I now allowed it to come inside with me. So now I brought it into my home. And so it's the same thing. So like anybody, so it's like when you're bringing someone into your home, you have to be, protect your space. So for me, what I do is when people are coming into my home, I always put up that prayer that whatever may walk with them, or if there's the entities, or there's certain, things that are not of love and light and not of creator, that they are not welcome, those things are not welcome into my home, and that they are to stay at the door. So then that way, when that person comes into my home, I don't have to go and smudge them and clear them and go, oh, I don't know where you've been, and smudge and make them feel like they're being attacked, or like they're not good enough to be in my home, when that's not even, they may not even be consciously aware of what's going on, but I'm aware. So you put up that space, and I was told from an elder that, you put up that space, you hold that space, and you say, you're welcome to come into my home, but anything else that may walk with you is not welcome into my home. So then that way, when that person, that visitor comes into your home, whatever may walk with them actually has to stay outside the door, because you are the one that said, I'm allowing you, Rochelle, to come into my home. But whatever else is back there that is not of creator and love and light is going to stay outside of my home. And if you choose to go back with that and reunite with that when you leave my home, then that's on your, that's your choice. But coming into my home, it's to stay outside the house. So that's one thing that I learned, especially because when I was really vulnerable, there's a place that sometimes you almost become fearful in a sense, because you're like, okay, who's here? Like, who can I trust? And I can feel everything. But then at the same time, it's like, okay, use that fear as a gift. And it's like, okay, so now I can feel this person coming, and this person's walking with something. So now I know, okay, either I need to separate myself from that person, or I just have to hold that space and that love, and maybe them coming into my home is what they need to be able to disattach from that entity or whatever's bothering them. So I hold that space for them, so that when they come into the home, that they can feel that love. They can feel, and you taught, helped teach me this growing up, and holding that space in your home is a temple. And so, being picky with who you allow into your sacred space. And if you don't, then you're just going to constantly be chasing and having to smudge, and constantly smudging your home every day, all day long. It's going to just be a big bonfire in your house, because you're constantly allowing things to come in, instead of holding that space and putting up that protection. And so that's another podcast that we could talk about too, is different ways that we can hold that protection, different grids, because as for a lot of us that are Indigenous, we grew up this way, we know these things, but then at the same time, like for me, for instance, I was kind of taken back to the beginning. And so it was like I kind of got knocked off the horse and thrown back into the beginning, so that I had to relearn all these different little tools and steps to get here, into different, raising the vibration. And as you spiritually grow, there's levels of tools that go with each step that you move forward and that you do. And so say you're on the first step, and there's going to be tools and there's going to be things that are going to help assist you. But then once you get through that lesson and you take that next step forward, some of those tools aren't going to help you anymore. They're not, they were meant for that first step. So then now there's new tools that come into play. And then as you go forward, then you start, you don't end up needing those tools anymore. They just kind of stay back there, and they stay in the place of knowledge so that you can help. And it's like almost like when you see somebody that's going there, like, oh, here's this tool. Oh, here's this tool. This is what tool you need so that you can keep stepping forward. And so with sort of like, for instance, with the protection, when you're at the beginning, yes, there is more things that you have to do to keep up that grid, to keep up that protection and that wall. But as you get stronger and as you move forward, it becomes less tools that you have to do every day to keep that place up. So we'll have to talk about those different steps and do that on another podcast, because there's all these different tools and things that we can move forward that to put up these protections, to hold these spaces for yourself. And it takes time and it takes practice, and it's not just going to happen overnight. It's a daily thing that we have to go through.
Yeah.
In our spiritual walk. So I was just going to leave that with that. So thank you.
You're welcome. The one thing that did come to my mind, that came to my mind was, don't over smudge your whole house where you can't breathe anymore. That's too much. Open the windows, be careful for those who are sensitive, your elders, people who can't breathe well. You don't want to just your smoke alarms. You may have to go outside, especially if you have an apartment. If you do it lightly and go around.
Maybe one little strand.
Yeah, not the whole bag.
You do one instead of the whole thing.
Yeah. So just be careful. You don't want the fire station and everybody showing up at your door every day. So
the fire marshal.
Yeah.
They might ground you from smudging.
Yes. So. Yeah. So be careful. And just, again, it's so important to remember these sacred things. We've been practicing this for decades from our ancestors. So they're gifts. Plants are our gifts. So.
Yes. Oh, and then real quick, someone asked, Holly. So a couple places that you can order some of the sage and other native herbs that have been gathered. One of them is Knock Bay Trading Post. Another one is Salt Lake City Trading Post. I just forgot the other one. What's the other one? You can
pretty much go to many.
Crazy Crow. I think Crazy Crow Trading Post.
I tried to do some research on Crazy Crow because I wanted to know if it was, and how they exchange. And you just want to make sure. And then I like to support Indigenous people. So my thing is, go to the tribes, go to the reservations, or go online. There's so many things now that it's easy to find. Powwow.com has a list of businesses of Indigenous owners. So you want to, do that. Around our place, the local place is a bead source. So that are Indigenous owned. So you want, you just want to find out or ask us, or we have things we could send it as well. So
Salt Lake City Trading Post is my favorite, just so that you guys know. We actually do trading with them as well. So we'll pick flat cedar and send it to them, and they do trade and send us sage or tobacco or Osho root. So I really like Salt Lake City Trading Post. They really do get most of their, like 99% of their herbs from indigenous people that are actually gathering them themselves and putting things together. So that would be my number one go-to would be the Salt Lake City Trading Post. So thank you everyone, for being on, and like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you on this week for the
Okay.
next podcast. Thank you for
Thank you.
being on. Have a good day.